Will AI dominate the music industry? And I say for sure, and I will explain you in this video why, and we will also talk about the issue with it and what that means for us musicians. And I will show you on a brand new app called Stable Audio how to use it. It's the Midjourney for audio. If you have been living under a rock, then you have seen what Midjourney did to graphic creation. So be excited and watch this video till the end. So will this be a good or a bad thing? And I say this depends. So it will be certainly bad for certain people. There has always in history been technology which has been super beneficial for all humans, but not the humans which it replaced. So if it's like weaving technology or the steam engine, somebody lost on the way, and it's important that you're not on the loser's side. So you always need to be prepared and on the lookout what happens next. I just want to refer to this book, The Cartoon Introduction to Macroeconomics. And I basically tell this story in here how over history technology has changed our lives, and if it has been a bad or a good thing. And if you want to get like deeper knowledge about that, then you can check that out. But in short, it's always like I explained, there is like a small number of losers and a big number of winners. So we definitely want to have the technological process. There have been only a few technologies in history which I guess we didn't need. It's like nuclear weapons, for example, but everything else kind of like brought us more forward. Look, guys, there's a very important thing I want to talk with you quickly. It's the subscribers here. So I hope you find my content valuable. And if you have watched more than one video of me, you might consider subscribing, because we have actually a very low subscriber count here. And I want to get this more to 50-50 maybe, so that half of the guys are coming back regularly and benefiting from these tutorials and really improving their music skills, and half of them are kind of like new guys. We also want to have new guys in our family here. And also please turn on the bell notifications so you can see typical YouTube 10 to 30%. It's like 12 here and 5 to 20. It's also a bit low. So if you can do me that favor, that would be very important. And also you're doing yourself a favor, because with that you won't miss any future videos, and that will make you progress faster as a Psytrance producer. So will AI replace musicians now? And I can answer this with a clear no for now. And anyways, anything in this video is just predictions of me, is how I evaluate how things will develop. So nobody can really look into the future, but we can look, for example, at Midjourney, because I think it's a very good example. It's in the art sphere. It's AI making art based on other artists. And besides the moral thing, if that's correct or not, a lot of people are using it. I'm using it, for example, for a lot of my cover arts, which I self-release, and I'm pretty glad that this technology exists. And the same is actually true, or will be true, for music. It will make it more accessible to many people. And the thing is, if you look, for example, at Midjourney now, there's still a lot of work to do. You need to find the right queries. You need to select the good art. Then you, for example, make variations from it. And then you have to kind of like merge it together. So usually if I do an artwork for myself, then I still need to do a lot of refinement. So to show you quickly, look, these are some artworks I created with Midjourney, but still, if you want to have a looking professional, then you need to add like many layers. So for example, I added like a color thing to adjust the colors. I have this main layer here, but then I have like a background layer, which I also created with Midjourney. So I don't want to go too deep into graphic design, but just saying, like, usually doesn't spit out something which you can use like it is. So there's always some kind of like refinement and improvement and curation process going on at the moment. So I believe this might change in 10 years or something from now as well, but still there's a lot of work to do, and Stable Audio, as we see later, isn't even that far as Midjourney. But the development is super rapid. If you think that won't catch up and will always require human work, or as much human work as we have now, then I'm guessing you are wrong. I'm really guessing you're wrong, and I'm willing to bet with you on that it will come a different way. For example, I could imagine at the moment, if we look at Midjourney again, you can kind of like make the query, and then you can select from your variations, and then you can variate those more, and then you can upscale and all those things. If you haven't checked it out, check it out, and then you will see how it works. But for example, you cannot like requery it. So for example, you cannot say like, make me a person with trees in the background, and then you say, remove the second tree from the left side or something. I think things like that will come in the graphic AI, and the same will be true for music AIs. As you see later, it's quite like simple at the moment, but at certain points, I guess, you can kind of like requery that, or it can maybe also fix itself, so that if you give it directions, then it can maybe change things along the track. Also, AIs are not really able to communicate a lot with each other at the moment. So I could imagine that if you have something like ChatGPT kind of like improving your queries, and then whatever the sound gets generated, and the sound then gets fed into something like Midjourney to make the cover art, then all those AIs will get much stronger if they kind of like really interwoven and have all those APIs between them. So once those apps all talk to each other, then it will get even more powerful and even less effort to do this. But you don't have to look that far as graphic design. We could also have a look at our industry, and we had a lot of game-breaking changes. So for example, VSTs have been a great invention. So I think VSTs made music production way more accessible. Imagine like having all those tutorials just on hardware, and you cannot have presets and stuff sending around and all that. That kind of like would have made creation of music way more difficult. So it may have been back then also bad for like a small group, the hardware manufacturers, because if you now can have the same thing in software, then obviously more people will buy software instead of hardware, and less people will buy hardware. So there's losers on that side and there's winners, and I guess a lot of you and I are the winners from it. But the thing is, it still requires an experienced musician to pull it off, because now when things become more accessible, what does it mean? So the input changes, so we have more musicians making music now because it's more accessible, but the output didn't change. I mean, the output changed with things like Spotify, but it didn't change because VSTs, for example, were invented, or AI is now invented. So this basically means we have higher competition out there, and you still need an experienced and trained musician to do all these curations and make it like really pick the best parts and assemble them together in the best possible way, and then make them really shine and refine them. And also you need to maybe the personal brand for a while still. So there's a lot of things which I think are still very important to do as a musician. You just need to kind of like think now differently, but it still requires an experienced musician, because the same as we've seen with Midjourney or with hardware to VSTs, you need somebody to operate it at the moment. This may change and get more easy and more easy over time, so that we need a less human input. But for quite a while, I guess, we will still have this curation process and the refining process. And even if we have something which is very, very automatic, then we still need to select the best bits. So I guess like the development is kind of like from getting somebody who can use the AI properly. So that will be the first skill you need to learn, and then you will need to be able to curate it properly and select the best bits and refine them. And in a later stage, you may only be the guy who wants to select what he wants to have. But anyways, there's still a lot more to the music business, so you will have to have like a strong personal brand. So even if there's like a million of AI generated music out there, then the work of a label or a personal brand will become very important, who selects the right bit, so that you don't need to listen to the not so good stuff. So there will be always like tasks which require musical knowledge and understanding. I'm starting something super sick in November. It's a special course for beginners, and the goal is to get a handful of beginners, so maybe you, to a release. So I will work you until you are able to release. And that's my promise. And if you want to do that, if you want to have your music on all platforms, you want to have it heard by people, and if you want to release, then that's the course for you. And you can join the waiting list for it. So I put a link up here, down in the description, and in the end of the video, there's like a small box which leads to my website where you can register. And you should register because I will send out an email, and I already have like, I think like 80 people or something on my list, and I will only take 5 of them. So this is your chance actually to get in. So let's have a quick look at Stable Audio. So it's an interface, has an interface, maybe you could say like a little bit like ChatGPT or the Discord channel of Midjourney. So you enter some words here. So for example, I could say 134 BPM uplifting trance track, and then I could enter this and it will create something for you. In the meanwhile, I already created some things here, and to be honest, they haven't been very good. As I already mentioned, the development is very, very rapid in all those things. So if you now say, okay, that's not music for me, or that's not good, then come back in 3 years and you will be stoked what this thing can do, I'm sure. So just to have like a quick listen to something. So I think which works really well is if you put things like this in, which sounds more like generic ambient music styles. At the moment, this is not good enough to create something which is really good, and especially if you try it with Psytrance, so then you may get something like this. But there's a way how you can already use this, which I found, and it's if you create just elements. So for example, what worked pretty well, I think, was this. So if I would experiment, I would go into that direction, maybe add like a key or something to it, or speed. I'd also try to FX things, but that wasn't too good either. If you like this video, then please hit the like button. That would be awesome because it spreads to other producers like you, and so you can help other producers to understand music production better. So let's quickly try if it can make nature sounds really good. That's actually not too bad. It sounds a little bit lo-fi and lowish, but maybe it's also because I'm here not on the pro version and spits out some lo-fi stuff. I don't know. That I would need to upgrade for, but I still guess that's the elements you definitely can usualize earlier than making a whole track from scratch. This one sounds a bit noisy, but for example, I could imagine that you could take the rhythm from it and then replace it with your own drums and create something from that, just to have like as an inspirational source. So that's another option how we could use this. So to summarize this quickly, I think AI will change the game forever. It will require some human work in the beginning, but less and less over time. And you are on the good side, I think, if you are able to let go of some skills in the future and acquire new skills like curation. So for example, arrangement things which will be, I guess, very valuable for a long time, while, for example, making certain sounds and effects or maybe even rhythms or stuff may become a little bit less important than they are now. So I think that is where the skill set will shift, and also of course like building your brand as a musician and having your style and taste will be very important thing. And for now, the tools are, or this tool at least, isn't far enough, but I guess it will not take very long. So I bet in 3 years we are there actually, or maybe 5 years, that you can basically create parts from tracks like melodies and rhythms and pads and whatever you need, and then you just need to assemble them in a very cool way and make them shine, like I have shown with Midjourney in Photoshop, so that you have all the cool elements and you just need to have the vision about it and assemble them.